Hi there, and welcome to this very quick 30-minute overview of what we've covered in PR3 so far in the first 3 weeks. Obviously, very important that you commit to the specialization that you've chosen and you commit to attending all the classes that you have every single week. So you'll have 9 hours of lectures with your specialization this year. So 9 hours with your PR3 lecturer, and very important that you commit to being on campus and you commit to going to those classes. A lot of what we do will be placed on Cole campus, but the point of this particular specialization is that you spend time on campus with your lecturer, in groups with your fellow student, and that you really commit to every single minute of every hour of this specialization of public relations. So also important, you understand the theory and you understand what we're talking about in class. And that means you need to come to class with this textbook and you need to be prepared every week ahead of every single class with this textbook. So use this textbook. It's a Bible. Highlight things in it, put question marks on things that you don't understand, and really make sure that you understand everything that we go through and everything that we work through in that textbook. Also very important that you remember where you've come from and you remember PR2. All right, this PR2 textbook is incredibly valuable and it should be a little Bible that you carry around with you all the time. I have past students that still have their PR2 textbook with them today on their desks at work, and they refer to it and they use it just to guide them and remind them. And then lastly, we had this textbook, Connect, and Understanding and Writing for Online Audiences. Also, very important that you remember the theory that we covered in PR2 and that you apply that to your classes and everything that you're learning in PR3. Right, I'm going to share the screen with you now so that you see Cole Campus, all right? This is your go-to place for a lot of information that you're going to need and a lot of videos. And just to remind you, it basically does serve, excuse me, a reminder for what we cover and what we're doing, and just to send to you and just give you an overview. So each week you will see there's a roadmap that shows you what we're going to cover in that week. So before you come to class on a Monday or before your first class, very important, you go onto Cole Campus, you check the roadmap, and you see what will be covered during the week ahead. And that will allow you to read the chapters in your textbook and prepare you for the exercises, for the examples, and for the assessments and the little mini class assignments and quizzes and presentations that you'll have to do. Because this third year course is a very interactive course. It's not just about your lecturer giving you a lecture. It's about working together. It's about presenting. It's about coming up with new ideas and concepts and presenting them to class on a weekly basis. So you will see here on Cole Campus what we've covered in week 1, what we've covered in week 2 and week 3, and also very important, your briefing for your formative assessment, for your first assignment. So there is a separate video that goes over the briefing session for this assignment, and I strongly suggest that you go through that. It's 30 minutes long, and it'll just give you an overview and an idea of what we're expecting of you in your first assignment for PR. So obviously, Cole Campus is your go-to place to help you prepare and to help you get into the groove of everything that is happening in this third year of public relations. So one of the first things that we did in the first week of PR3 is we went back to the beginning. We went back to the basics. And we looked at your portfolio that you submitted in PR2, and we went through the highlights of that portfolio in terms of some of the mistakes that you made, some of the lessons that were learned, and we went back to the theory just to get you back in the mindset that everything that we do in third year builds up on what we covered in second year. And the last thing you want in this, when you're doing third year, the last thing you want is to be making the same mistakes that you were making in PR2, because PR3 doesn't really allow for those kind of mistakes with the basics. So the basics in terms of understanding a 7-step plan, the basics about research, the basics about setting up objectives and evaluation criteria, understanding stakeholders and their importance, editorial angles and ideas, and your media list. Those are the basics of public relations and the tools that we use and how we use them. So I strongly suggest that you go onto Cole Campus, access your PR2 portfolio, and go into detail on the revision that was given and the feedback that was given by your lecturer, and apply that feedback to every bit of work that you submit now in PR3. If you weren't sure of anything, if you still today aren't sure about what an editorial angle is, or how exactly to put a media list together, on Cole Campus are all those revision slides from PR2, and you're going to need to dedicate some time to going through them and making sure you understand everything that we covered. So have a look. See where your areas of weakness were in PR2. Look at your portfolio. Look at each of those, 7 sections, and ask yourself, where could I have improved in each of those sections? And how could I have improved? And the best way to do that, and the best way to improve, is to look at the feedback and then go back to the theory and apply that theory and make sure you understand it. If there are areas that you don't understand, if you still find yourself worried about editorial angles or internal communications, and putting a website together, whatever it is, if you find yourself still a little bit unsure, go back and read those notes and slides and then speak to your lecturer. Ask your lecturer just to help you and just to guide you. Also, the assignments that you did in PR2, your FA1, your FA2, and your FA3, go back and look at those assignments as well and really look at your understanding of the assignment and how you could have improved if you did that assignment again. Because again, all those assignments in second year were building blocks for everything that you're required to do in third year. So that's what we spent a lot of our first week of PR3 doing, is just going back to the basics, going back to the foundation of public relations and the definitions and the understanding and the theory, and putting that in your head and in your mind so that it becomes normal and it's not new, that you understand all of those basics and those fundamentals of public relations. We also did a class on mind mapping and how we use mind maps to help us understand concepts and creative elements. So have a look on Cole Campus, how to put a mind map together. And there's a great website called Coggle that'll help you use technology to put a mind map together. Mind maps work this year, especially if you consider your first assignment that you have to do, and if you need to see your overall campaign as a whole. If you put a mind map together and you continually develop it and use it, that mind map will really help you have a helicopter view, so looking down on your assignment, and a 3D view so that you can see that all the elements of your assignment all fit together. So important that you incorporate mind mapping and how it works into everyday thinking, because it really does help you put concepts and ideas down, and it also prevents you from forgetting ideas when you see them in a mind map and you can see their relevance and where they fit in everywhere. Another important thing that you do is go onto Cole Campus and check the roadmap for each week. Now, I did mention this before, but I just want to share as an example of one of the weekly roadmaps that we put on Cole Campus. This roadmap that you can see details what every single lesson will be about, what we'll cover, the videos that we'll watch, and the work that you need to do in preparation. So this roadmap is very important because it will guide you as to what you can expect during the week and help you prep. And it will serve as a revision as well. So you can go back to the roadmap at the end of the class and have a look and see what was covered in that week's class. So in week 2, after we did the detailed introduction into PR3 and we spoke about what you need to get through and all of those things, in week 2, we really got into the nitty-gritty of public relations. And we started to look at our textbook and understand some key concepts and theories behind the look of PR and the definitions that we talk about when we discuss public relations. And it's important now that we start to not move away from, but look at the definition of public relations and start shifting it almost to the words strategic communications, because everything that we do in public relations is strategic and it's communicating. So it doesn't matter who we're communicating with, but we're communicating with all our stakeholders, but we're doing it in a very strategic manner, in a strategic way. So if you go on to Cole Campus, you will find some slides that that kind of introduced us to this concept and this understanding. And I'm just going to share the screen with you. So very important that you look at these slides. Here they are. Let me just share them with you. And we start to understand paradigms, perspectives, and paradoxes. And this is in chapter 1 of your new PR textbook. Everything in this was covered in class, and we went through in quite detail in class. But the world we live in is basically in flux. And the fourth industrial revolution, although some refer to it as new and it's this new concept, actually we have been in a constant state of flux and movement for over 100 years. Every year there's new technologies, there's new developments, there's new things that are implemented. And as communication specialists, we've had to adapt to those new tech. But the fourth industrial revolution has brought about a greater deal of technological complexity and shifts in society and our values and our social norms and expectations. There's new ways of thinking about everything that we do, and organizations have changed their expectations as well. So we as public relations and communications experts have also had to change the way that we see individuals in society, and organizations have to balance the way that they talk to people and the way that they view stakeholders and the multiple interests of multiple stakeholders that are out there. So basically this means that we have to manage what is called social change and new forms of organizing and ethical leadership and sustainable decision making. So communications professionals have had to adapt as well to new communication realities and new communication practices. And this means that we talk about strategic communication. And this acknowledges that there is a huge amount of diversity and a multiplicity of views. So the world in which we live in is incredibly diverse, and people have lots of different views and opinions on many topics. And that means strategic communication now covers the term across marketing, PR, communications, public affairs, and communication management. So the traditional boundaries of these functions are blurred now. And in second year, we spoke about integrated marketing communication. And now this shows you that the lines are a little bit blurred in terms of where one ends and one begins. And they're all merging together into a term that we refer to as strategic communication. And basically, it's very important that you understand the building blocks of the academic thinking behind these definitions. And we talk about a paradigm, and a paradigm is an example of something, a model. If you think of the ideal woman, the perfect job, that is the paradigm, the typical example of something. But now, because the world has changed so much and continues to change on a daily basis, we look at old ways of looking at things and now new ways, and how important the development of strategic communications is in this discipline. So we cover in your textbook modernism and postmodernism, and the move from a monologue to a dialogue. So the move from an organization just talking to people to now the organization listening to people and actually then developing their communication so that it reaches people in a way that they want to be reached. So scholars have obviously had to come up with a new way of thinking, and this collaborative turn, people working together, this dialogue and interactive nature has led to a radical reconceptualization of the fields of public relations and communication. So there's a multi-paradigm approach. There's no basic approach anymore because everything has changed, and the theory and definitions and what we do and how we do it has had to change to keep up with it. So we talk about a strategic communication paradigm, and basically it means that everything is emerging. It is coming into being. It is becoming prominent. It is slowly becoming the norm, although the norm changes every single day. So strategy and strategic communication is considered to be emergent. It's emerging, it's changing, and it arises from the interaction of others. It includes the word strategy, which is a plan of action because it relies on the interactions of many. A strategy can't just be put together with one person anymore. It's got to come from multiple dialogues and multiple discussions. Communication may be planned or deliberate, but obviously it needs to evolve with changing circumstances and changing situations. And this means that the PR practitioner is now someone that is very much chameleon-like, that is able to transcend boundaries, that is able to look from the outside in, from the inside out, and can really look at the globe in terms of world events and things that are going on, and how that global influence has an influence on your organization and your communication and the people that you are communicating with, and the things that they understand and the things that they are talking about as well. So it also means that in PR, we have to look at our own values and our own thinking frameworks and create direction, alignment, and commitment with everything that we communicate and everything that we put out there. So that then means that there have been paradigm shifts in public relations and communications. And that then means that the change in the norm is the norm now. So we look at how things have changed continuously and how they continue to, and that we have to guide and counsel people that are reluctant to these changes and people that are in power, that are reluctant to moving with the times and keeping up with all the change. And that means we have to then combine our understanding of theory and scholarship and practice, combine that theory into the way we guide our leaders and into the way that we work moving forward. We also talk about modernism and postmodernism. Modernism is a modern character or quality of thought, of expression. And so very important that you look at your textbook and you understand modernism and postmodernism and how PR exists within this new paradigm and new definitions and new understanding. We also cover behavioral managerial paradigm. So basically linked to a consciously intended course of action. Everything that we do, we've decided what we want to do and how we want to do it. And it's premeditated and deliberate. And this is probably a little old school in terms of a management style, because it's very tactical and short term. And it doesn't really keep up with the new way of things continually changing and our strategy having to change with this. So when we talk about postmodernism as a paradigm or postmodern paradigm, basically that means that there are emerging structures continually coming. The flow of communication is multi-directional, and there is lots of interaction and lots of shared meaning that has to take place. Also, when we talk about shared meaning, we also talk about the co-creation of meaning. We are relying on our stakeholders to help us understand what their understanding and what their needs are. So we use various participants when we come up with communication to achieve our mutually determined outcomes. From reflexive to reflective, two key concepts that we now use in PR communication: reflective approach, seeing an organization from the outside in and as part of an interdependent social structure. So where does our organization fit into society and all the people and the stakeholders that are relevant to it? And then we look at from functional to co-creational. Again, everything that we do, we are getting input from all our other stakeholders and all other relevant specialists in order to come up with meaning and understanding. Normative to critical, a normative approach requires that communication professionals act in accordance with the requirements that are accepted and our standard norms of behavior. But most recently, because PR has received quite a bit of criticism and scrutiny, it means that we've got to come up with more long-term solutions. And, how do we solve problems and how do we look at things, so that we aren't seen to be more concerned with profit and less concerned with relationships. So a critical approach then investigates ethics, power relations, status, discipline, and influences, and therefore how it all fits into us as an organization or us as PR professionals within the culture of a diverse world. This critical approach promotes constant engagement and demonstrates the need for alternate approaches. And obviously, a critical approach means that you are self-reflective. As a PR practitioner, you are required to look at the work that you do, look at the campaigns that you come up with, and reflect on them, review them constantly, see if they're working, and then promote corrective action where it is needed. So we've gone from creating a strategy to thinking strategically and continually developing, moving forward, looking at what is going on and looking at how we can establish goals, have objectives, and obviously use our resources and use management to help us achieve those goals, but also understanding that a strategy is deliberate, it's goal-driven, and that should assist its organization in an increasingly unpredictable environment. And it almost means that we are now having to look into the future and decide how is the future going to be and how can we keep our strategy moving forward in that and keep it going. Emergent strategy then means that because the world is turbulent and there is uncertain and constantly unstable environments, it then means we have to have an emergent strategy that focuses you through communication and complex roles of that communication. And we have to be very aware that we are engaging with all of our stakeholders in a sensitive manner. We are caring, we are kind, we understand this environment that we are in, and we have empathy, and we really listen to what people are thinking, and we put that into our strategies so that we're understanding how we can be relatable and relate to people in our campaigns, but also as PR professionals. We look at agent to agency, a postmodern approach, and how communication is used to create the perception of truth. So just have a look in your textbook and read through all of that. And then there's a beautiful video on YouTube that I really suggest that you watch, the danger of a single story, a single narrative, the danger of only listening to one side of a story, and how this all comes together and shows the need that we have in society for multiple views, and your interpretation of those views and what other views there are out there. And in order to be a well-rounded PR professional, you have to be very much aware that you're not just telling one side or one story. that you are looking at multiple views and incorporating those multiple views into the work that you do. And then we move on at the end of this class from disciplinary to transdisciplinary, applauds diversity in both theory and practice. And we're looking at a holistic view of understanding the links between all our concepts, the links between all our stakeholders, the links between everybody who's out there, and analyzing our worldview and how we look at the world and how we research things, and use that to update and understand our knowledge and aid us in coming up with this transdisciplinary approach. You will then find that there are several case studies in your textbook that you need to look through and read. Obviously, COVID is a fantastic example of how the world went from operating one way to a complete 180, and organizations still had their strategies in place and they still had their goals and their communication objectives, but how under COVID, we had to change the way that we do it. We had to re-look at everything and in a very dynamic and fast-paced way, come up with campaigns and strategies that still helped us reach our goals, but that incorporated all the learnings from COVID about listening, about empathy and about sympathy and understanding what people are going through, and incorporating that into our campaigns. Part of everything that we did in week 2 and week 3 for PR3 was to prepare you and get you ready for your first assignment. So please have a look at the separate video on Cole Campus, which details and outlines everything that you need to understand the brief and to understand what is required of you for your FA1. So what we did is we watched a series of videos on different campaigns that had come up globally on how people had tried to, or how brands had tried to create awareness for COVID-19 and awareness for the vaccination. And some of the campaigns that worked in South Africa and some of the bigger campaigns that came out in America. And it was all in an effort to give you an idea of how other campaigns work and how people put campaigns together and how they reach people and get their messages out there. So have a look at on Cole Campus and click on the links on the YouTube videos that are there on the roadmap, and have a look at those videos and see if you were that PR person, could you have come up with something like that? Are you able to see the creative process that they put together with the campaigns that they worked on? So it's very important as a PR professional that you immerse yourself in the industry that you are in, and you look at other companies and other PR people's campaigns to see what has worked and what hasn't worked, and why things work and why they resonate with people and why they connect with people and why they are shared. So it's also a very good idea to visit the PRISA website and visit the PRISM entries and winners over the years and see some of the campaigns that have won awards, to give you an idea of what the people that are out there in our industry in South Africa are coming up with and doing, so that you can get ideas and get your creative juices flowing. Right, let me share some more slides with you as we started with week 3. And obviously in week 3, we went through considering strategic communication and watching those campaigns and asking ourselves what some of the critiques were of the campaign. So what worked, what didn't work, how were best practices of public relations used? Were the examples the examples that we used, the one which was the truck, which you must please watch, the UNICEF truck, and Anheuser-Busch's Let's Grab a Beer campaign. Have a look at those campaigns, read up on them. All the links and everything are in the slides that I'm sharing with you and that you can find on Cole Campus. And just get yourself up to speed with those campaigns and ask yourself those critical questions about whether they worked, what made them work, how they used PR tactics and tools, and whether it was just a one-sided approach or whether there was multiple ways that they got their message out there. Also, a great campaign for NTN, Wear It For Me, they Wear It For Me campaign. Have a read of the articles and watch the videos and just see how you would have used that campaign to get public relations. And always good that you review everyone's campaigns and you review the work that has been done by others before you and use it as a bit of energy to inspire you to and kind of, you know, see if there were similar target markets, similar tools, how you could use those to your advantage if you were putting a campaign together. Right, so we also asked students to come up with a similar campaign for a football club and, you know, get people vaccinated. And how would you, if you were the PR for one of South Africa's football clubs, how would you come up with a campaign to get people vaccinated and to get people back into stadiums? So it's always a good idea to challenge yourself, sit down quickly with pen and paper and jot down a few ideas. And look at page 40 of your textbook and see if you could come up with a quick campaign to reach the fans of one of South Africa's football teams. And then there's just a lovely refresher video that you can watch. It's not manipulation, it's strategic communication. And that's just to refresh you and keep your mind always on course about what public relations is and how we use strategic communication to reach all of our stakeholders. Then, you know, another video, a lovely podcast which talks about strategic communication and public relations. Have a listen to that podcast and just reflect on the definition of modernism and postmodernism and reflexivity and reflection. And there is an activity in your textbook that you need to just look at and go through. So just go through that in your own time and make sure that you have an understanding of those definitions on your own. The next classes that we talked about was the paradigm development in influencing our practice, and how the definitions and the key scholars that are out there that are coming up with the perspectives that we have within PR and within the definitions and how strategic communication, the definition has changed and the characteristics of it have changed. So please read page 52 to 61 of your textbook. We then had a little crossword. You can try and do the crossword. We've shared it with you on Cole Campus. Have a look and see if you can do the crossword and fill in the answers. And then we moved on to page 62 and 69 of the textbook, strategic communication, the key scholars, reflection, and then the role of a symbolic intermediary and the role of strategic communications practitioners. So have a look at that. And then there's an activity on page 69 that it's quite important that you have a look through and see if you can do it. And then we discussed a lovely campaign which was done by the World Wildlife Foundation on introducing the consumer to the other Amazon. All right, so we all know Amazon online, and we all know that you can buy and shop online, and we know who started Amazon, and he's one of the richest people in the world. But we seem to have forgotten who the other, or what the other Amazon is, and what the first Amazon was, and that's the Amazon River, and how the great PR campaign they came up with to highlight the other Amazon and to highlight respecting the Amazon jungle and what it contributes to the environment of the world. So have a look at that, the videos, that's the links in the slides. Have a look at the articles that were written, and then ask yourself if this was a campaign that you think you could have come up with or you could get PR for, and again, what its strengths and weaknesses were. So that was a very quick overview of what we've done in the last 3 weeks of PR3. Obviously, there is a need for you to get your textbook, to get the roadmaps, and to get ahead and to get in touch with everything that we've done. Everything about PR3 involves the word proactive, and you as a student need to be a proactive participant in everything that we do in public relations this year. So get your textbook, get onto Cole Campus, watch the videos, Make sure you understand the concepts and the definitions. Go back to your textbook. And again, if you are concerned or if there are areas that you aren't sure about, just drop your lecturer an email, hold back till after class and just ask, and just make sure that you are confident in your understanding of everything that we've covered so far, from week 1 to 3, and that you are moving forward with week 4 and getting ready to start week 5, and that you have proper understanding of what we're doing and how we're doing it. Obviously, your lecturers are here to help. Doesn't matter which campus you're on, whether it's Durban or Pretoria or Johannesburg, the three of us are here ready to help. Just always never be shy to ask questions, and just make sure that you've got your textbook and you're keeping up to date and you are preparing for every class using everything that we place on Cole Campus for you.